Welcome to the second installment of the Dharma Toolkit, Buddhist Rituals Explained and Explored by Maximilian. It's a wonderful day to have another set of teachings, and I've been looking so much forward to it. We've had a lot of positive feedback from last Saturday, and today will be about why and how to do the offerings. And I think that's one of my morning favorites, to do the morning water bowls. And Miffy is the SPC from Langri Takpa in Brisbane, Australia, and that's why we also have to do it at this time, so she doesn't need to be up late at night, though she's a night owl, which she said. And I'm just really happy that she wanted to do this course with us. So I will hand over the word to you, Miffy. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Lars. Thank you. And hello again. Really nice to see you all here. And no doubt, I mean, we're a bit like a time machine, aren't we? It's different times all over the world of everybody who's here. For me, I'm about to embark tonight on midnight Dharma with you. But yes, like Lars says, I am a night owl, so it's just fine with me, and I'm really pleased to be here. And the topic for tonight about why to make offerings, you know, and what do we put on the altar? You know, last week we talked about setting up an altar and how it's such a skillful means to create mountains of merit. It shows, it kind of reflects how much we respect the Dharma, and it can attract and encourage people to the Dharma. So we're going to continue on a theme and then see, well, what do we actually put on our altar? So we'll have a little look at the different categories of offerings, different types of offerings, physical ones, ones in imagination, the basic things to have on your altar, the symbolic meaning and the different layers of symbolism that there are, and then a little bit on offering bowls. So we'll touch on tantric offering bowls, but the main thing will be on how to do water bowl offerings. And then we'll end with a story about my hair and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I hope we get to the end okay and don't run out of time. Let's set our motivation just in a nice informal way, but we can still make it really heartfelt and personal. So the two wings of the bird, compassion and wisdom, or kindness and curiosity. So in terms of curiosity, it's always much more relaxing to think of oneself as a beginner. I know I relax once I think, oh, I'm just a beginner, it's okay. And then you can just really enjoy finding out stuff. And from here all the way to enlightenment, the whole purpose to find out about offerings is to put in place all the causes and then achieve enlightenment. So the really big picture. And why kindness for oneself and kindness for others. So, you know, we can learn about the details today, but the purpose of it isn't to get stuck in the details or to think, oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong, or get all pride about I've been doing it right. But actually all of this is a process of transforming into a Buddha, purifying our mind, bringing forth our natural potential. And why do we want to do this? For a lot more than just ourselves. We really have such a big incentive. All the sentient beings who need us, who are relying on us. And this is something that we can do. This is where we can get started right today without too much trouble and create mountains and mountains of merit. Rinpoche says about offerings that it's the best investment that we can make. It's better than getting paid $1 billion an hour. If you're like the world's biggest CEO, whatever it is, like forget about it. That's just nothing compared to the incredible benefits of making offerings. So with this motivation of curiosity and kindness. Before I start this screen share, I just thought I'd just say a little bit about why we would bother making offerings, and just in general about the importance of practicing generosity. I know for me, when I try and practice generosity, I'm very rusty and I can feel the wheels going in my mind, clunk, 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 clunk. It doesn't necessarily come easily. And actually, I'm probably a bit of a hoarder. So, you know, it's good for me to think about why be generous, why practice generosity. So just in general, if we are sharing our resources, practicing generosity now, it puts in place the karmic causes for in the future that we have enough resources, that we have all the requisites for living. So we have enough food, we have access to medicines, we have shelter, we have clothing. So just in this life, we don't want to end up with not enough, let alone in future lives. When we practice generosity, it's a way of also accumulating positive potential and purifying clinging and miserliness. So it's actually, the more we practice generosity, the more relaxed we become, the more happy we become with our circumstances. Whereas, as you know, if we're getting tighter and tighter about money or resources, doesn't matter how much we get, it's never enough. We can't even enjoy it. So practicing giving things away is incredibly healthy for us. The Buddhas, they don't need our offerings. They don't need anything like that from us. It's purely from our side. It's for our benefit that we make offerings, because of the transformative effect it can have on our mind and how inspired we can become. So that's in general, from a tantric point of view, and all of our, you know, Tibetan Buddhist centers are, even though we're studying what's in common with the Lam Rim, the path to enlightenment, everything's taught from a tantric point of view. So our aim is to become a fully awakened Buddha for the benefit of all. And to do that, we need meditations that accord with the Dharmakaya, the wisdom, the mind of a Buddha. And that's all the wisdom teachings. And then we need meditations that accord with the form of a Buddha, the Rupakaya. And that's all the tantric practices. And we need both. If we don't have both, then we can't become a Buddha. It's just not going to happen. We need the substantial cause. This is like cause and effect 101. So making offerings is part of the substantial cause of developing the form of a Buddha, the Rupakaya. So these meditations, from this point of view, they're unique to the tantric vehicle. And whether we have an initiation or not, we can all practice generosity, and we can kind of keep it in mind that it has this really big picture to it. So the screen share, why make offerings? And as usual, I really like to start with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because everything starts with His Holiness. And here he is tending his altar, and there's so much more going on than meets the eye. I mean, it's such a beautiful environment right there, and there's such attentiveness from His Holiness. So even in a room like this, you'd have the physical basis of the offerings that you're making with your mind, with your heart, with your concentration. So you have the physical basis of the abode of a Buddha's environment. And that's usually represented by the mandala house, the square mandala house. And I'm not sure if we can see one in this picture, but I suspect it might be here behind the flowers there and the curtain. There might be a mandala house there. So that's like the environment of a Buddha. Then you have the body of a Buddha, and in this case, it would be a tantric deity like Chenrezig or Vajradhara, you know, the rainbow body arising. And generally, you'd arise in the body of a Buddha when you've had the initiation to do so. It's kind of like getting your license to be able to do so. And all of the meditations on the body of a Buddha, the form of a Buddha, the blissful, pure form, whether we arise as one of those Buddhas or whether we meditate on one of those Buddhas in front of us, like Chenrezig or Tara or Medicine Buddha, those meditations are the substantial cause for us to one day arise in the form of a Buddha, in that kind of body, completely pure rainbow body. Then the deeds of a Buddha. What does a Buddha do? A Buddha doesn't run around scratching his head going, oh gosh, what do I do to help sentient beings? A Buddha spontaneously, effortlessly helps sentient beings, and not even by running around, but actually by emanating lights like fiber optics in all directions. And the tip of each light ray, more Buddhas. And all these little Buddhas go out and help sentient beings. So the emanating and absorbing lights to sentient beings is like the breathing of a Buddha. It's the activity of a Buddha. And we usually practice that when we recite mantras, even just reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. That's what we're practicing, what a Buddha does. And then finally, what we see in this beautiful photo here, the enjoyments of a Buddha or the resources of a Buddha, what they enjoy, what they have to be able to help sentient beings, everything that's needed to help others. And so the substantial cause for that is making tantric offerings and making mandala offerings and making torma offerings, water bowl offerings. So here you can see it's quite nice because it's an unusual altar. It's there. The bowls are arranged circular instead of in a straight line. They've got double-decker offerings, which I love. Why just have one bowl when you can have 2 or 3 bowls all laden up, more layer upon layer upon layer? So offerings, making offerings, is better than Christmas. And I love Christmas, by the way. I just adore Christmas, Christmas trees, the Christmas windows. I don't know if you guys have Christmas windows where you are, but as a child, I just remember being so overjoyed to look at the Christmas windows. How magical. And our altar is like a Christmas window. That's how we should feel about it. It's like this entering into this parallel universe. It's a transporting window into the pure lands. So when we have an altar, we aspire to those qualities when we just want to immerse ourselves in it. With Christmas windows, you know, because it's a secular thing, it might often be just a worldly thing. We too want to immerse ourselves in it, but it may just create more agitation or more attachment. So practicing the generosity creates mountains of merit. As well, I think, say with Christmas windows and also with your altar, the fragility of the Christmas baubles. There's really something about that that reminds us about the fragility and the beauty of our life. So one of the beautiful things about Christmas baubles, a little bit like mandala offerings, they have no intrinsic value. I mean, you could spend hundreds of dollars on them, but they're pretty worthless as stuff. They've got very little, you know, pragmatic function to them. But what they do is they remind us of beauty and fragility, of impermanence, but not just impermanence like, oh, now we're all doomed. Impermanence and how exquisite life can be and how precious this opportunity is and how we've got to look after it really, really carefully and enjoy every moment of it and use every moment of it. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche talks about how we already make offerings all the time and many times light offerings. For instance, at Christmas time, light offerings and food offerings. But if we don't use them on the path to enlightenment, they just create more samsara, suffering, attachment, bondage to this ordinary view. We already make heaps of light offerings. Just think of the amount of lights that are offered at weddings, that are offered on New Year's Eve with fireworks. So all of this, again, it's like it's such a wasted opportunity usually, because we're using up all of our good karma by having them and enjoying them. But what do we use them for? So we don't have to feel guilty about it. We just, whatever situation presents itself, then we just quickly imagine all the Buddhas there, and as the fireworks are coming up into the sky, boom, 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 then it's just fireworks offerings for the Buddhas on behalf of everybody there who goes, oh, when they see the fireworks. So in our mind, we can use everything like that on the path to enlightenment. Beautiful Christmas dinner, instead of just eating it and then feeling sick because you ate too much, offer it all. Then it becomes something useful instead of just something in the toilet a little bit later on. So we need so much merit already just to have these resources. Then we get these resources, we just use them for this tiny limited amount of time. So all of these resources we can have as offerings. So let's have a look at the types of offerings that there are to put it into perspective. The categories of offerings, we've got, you might have heard these terms, actually arranged and mentally emanated. You often hear this in Puja, and it's also mentioned in Lamrim texts. So the actually arranged offerings are all the offerings that actually physically exist. And the first category is the ones that we own. So the stuff that we have. So whatever food that we have that we offer, our own mandala set that we have, it's something that we own, but we're offering it. We can offer all sorts of other things also that we have in our house. So they're ours. We're free to offer them. But we can also offer the things we don't own. And no, we won't go to jail for it. We won't get in trouble. It's actually, the whole world has organized these offerings for us. So Christmas time in particular, how many people have Christmas trees already there set up in their houses? And we can just offer them. Not only that, we can offer all the traffic lights in the world, you know, continuously changing colors, all the street lights that come on automatically at night. We can offer all the flowers in all the gardens. And of course, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche does, he offers all the offerings on everybody's altar around the world every day. He likes to know that you've got some on your altar because he offers everybody's. So then it just becomes really extraordinary. Then we can offer all the medicines in the world, all the beautiful, we can offer entire flower markets. You get the idea. Then we've got the mentally emanated. So the ones done with concentration, with our mind, the ones we've imagined, and what are called unexcelled offerings. So the mentally emanated ones, the imagined offerings are often the ones done in the Shakyamuni Buddha Puja or other pujas where we go through offering flowers into incense and lights. And actually we're imagining whole skies filled with them. The unexcelled offerings, that's a mysterious category. So these are offerings that are made by bodhisattvas. And so I think what makes them unexcelled is that they're made with bodhicitta, with great compassion and wisdom realizing emptiness. And that's what makes them special. Included in these unexcelled offerings are things like wish-granting trees, wish-fulfilling jewels, probably you can throw in a few Aladdin's lamps, miracles, all sorts of miracles, so that kind of thing. But mostly it's informed by the two types of bodhicitta. So when we're looking at these types of offerings, you can see that there's quite a range of them. We don't have to limit them at all. And also, there are many layers of meaning. So I mean, those of you who are doing the basic program, I'm probably mansplaining to you, so please forgive me. But at the very least, whatever we offer, it's got two layers of meaning. One that's kind of like the literal one, which is called the interpretive meaning. And that's when we offer flowers and incense and lights. That's exactly what we're offering, flowers and incense and lights. And aren't they beautiful? But then there is the symbolic meaning, which is called the definitive one. And that has the ultimate meaning to it. It has the symbolism. So when we say, for instance, offering trees and flowers, we're offering various virtues and various qualities. So instead of having a dot point list, which is quite dry to offer, we do it with art, with creativity, to remind us as an experience. You don't even need words. You have all of these images, but you think about what they represent. So there's a great depth of meaning. So at the very least, there's two layers of meaning to everything. And within the tantric practices, there's generally 6 layers of meaning. And so if you can't think of 6 different ways to interpret offering flowers, you know you're missing some pieces of the puzzle. And when you get to highest yoga tantra, there are 32 layers of meaning. So when someone says, you know, oh, what a flower, what does a lotus represent? You gotta go, well, let me tell you, how long do you have? Or if someone says, what does blue mean? What's blue represent? Again, you know, two layers of meaning, 6 layers of meaning, 32 layers of meaning, minimum. Even in the Tara praises, there's one beautiful commentary on the 21 Tara verses by 2 brothers that are like the 2 Taras, white Tara and green Tara, and they made these commentary. And so in that book, there's 6 layers of meaning for each of the verses of the 21 Tara praises. Just blows your mind. So when we have offerings, we try and have a physical representation, even if it's very, very small, doesn't matter. But something physical there, like a placeholder in the world. And then with our mind, we make it huge and vast and perfect and pure. So I'm not sure if I mentioned last week, but when you're making offerings, it's important to have that physical basis, because if we just offer with our mind without a physical basis, what it means is in the future, we won't have physical things to offer. So, and we'll only be able to offer with our mind. So we actually want to have physical things to offer as well. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, with our visualization, think sincerely we're making the offering, both physical and imagined. We also offer things that we don't have, like trees and orchards and aeroplanes. We mentally offer the entire universe, all the planets, all the worlds, all the sense objects, especially the things we cling to like our body and our friends, offer the best quality, the greatest quantity, and with as clear a visualization as possible. So some more Christmas lights, some more Christmas windows, and some little kitties really having a great time. So imagine if we actually offered all of these. Even just now, we can look at this and we can offer it. Especially offering light. So offering light, Rinpoche says it's the door of dependent arising to quickly complete the accumulation of merit and receive blessings. So if you wish for sublime realization, offer hundreds of lights. and here at Christmas time, they're all there for us. So the benefits of offering light: one becomes like a light in the world. Oneself becomes like a light in the world. And isn't that what we want to be able to do to help sentient beings? One achieves the clairvoyance of the pure flesh eye. So a clairvoyance, one achieves the Deva's eye. So I think that's even better clairvoyance. One receives the wisdom of knowing what's virtue and what's non-virtue. in colloquial terms, that means knowing what to do and what not to do, what's right, what's wrong, what do I do here? You naturally develop that, you get it right. One's able to eliminate the darkness of ignorance, the concept of inherent existence. One receives the illumination of wisdom. Even in samsara, one never experiences darkness. One receives great enjoyment wealth. One is reborn into the deva or human realms. One quickly becomes liberated and one quickly attains enlightenment. So it's the fast track. And we all want a shortcut, don't we? So here's one offering lights, and it's such a nice thing to offer. So we've got coming up soon on Day of Miracles, you know, and our pujas are online at the moment. So I was thinking, what we're going to do, I'm going to invite everyone to make themselves a human light bulb and just to completely drape yourself in fairy lights. And then we can all get on Zoom together and all of us can just offer fairy lights together. So, you know, something or other to get involved. So from Rinpoche's light offering practice, you know, he says, first off, you've got to set a good motivation. The best motivation. The purpose of my life is not only to obtain happiness and solve problems for myself, but to free each being from problems and lead them to happiness, especially the state of full enlightenment. Therefore, I must myself achieve enlightenment. To do this, I must achieve the two accumulations, merit and wisdom. And therefore, I'm going to make charity with light offerings. So that's the trajectory. And then you can motivate for particular projects, for the relief of sickness, for people who've died. You can add in those specific things that we have a karmic connection with. Then you offer. These actually performed and mentally performed light offerings are the manifestations of one's own innate awareness. So you think the light is the manifestation of your own wisdom. Any form of light within visualization, within Buddhism, is a placeholder for the wisdom realizing emptiness. So you think the lights are a manifestation of your own wisdom, the Dharmakaya. They fill infinite sky, and then you offer. Don't forget who you're offering them to. The three rare sublime ones, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, to all the gurus, great multitude of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And just as an aside, I like offering clouds of chandeliers. And what's so nice when you're offering mentally, they don't need to be plugged in anywhere. They can just float in space without any cords, just, you know, lighting up everywhere. It's so nice. So then you offer, and then you dedicate. May all the sufferings of the evil gone realms be ceased right now. May all the three realms of samsara be emptied right now. May all the impure minds and their obscurations be purified. May all impure appearances be purified. May the five holy bodies and wisdom spontaneously arise. So that's from Rinpoche's light offering practice, and it's just amazing, isn't it? But even if you just do a very simple, set a good motivation, offer, remember who you're offering to, and then dedicate, and do it in a good way, big, vast way. So do we have any questions yet in my general introduction?
You may raise your hand or write in the chat if you do have a question. I couldn't read out aloud. Otherwise, I could start with the first one. Let's say I offer some wonderful, delicious chocolate, put it on the altar, and after a day or in the evening, do I have to throw it out, or can we share with the family?
No, don't throw it out. No, so when you offer, in particular, when you offer food, and I've heard this is what Lama Yeshe used to do. Whenever they'd bring the shopping in, the housekeeper would bring the shopping in, he'd put all the shopping bags in front of the altar and offer. And then 20 minutes later, you put the shopping away. Their business is done. The main business is done. Now it's just the leftovers. Everybody eats it. That's fine. So this is also a really great way to train your pets and to train your kids. You know, everybody has great joy in offering to Buddha because they know that 20 minutes later they're going to be able to have it. But meanwhile, at least it becomes useful and not just attachment. And so now since COVID, when we make our offerings, we've been buying offerings that are actually appropriate to give to the homeless and to give to charity. So we stopped buying chocolates, even though I love chocolates and they're so beautiful to offer. We've been offering cans of spaghetti and tomato sauce and coffee and tea and long life milk and sultanas and all sorts of really good, healthy vegetarian food. So it's offered to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and the main job is done, and then it can be offered to the homeless and to charity afterwards. And everybody feels so much more comfortable now because, you know, we spend so much on making offerings for pujas, and then it has this dual purpose.
Right, thank you. And here's a question from Ross. Can you please ask, is it okay to put shopping bags in front of the shrine? I thought we were meant to arrange them beautifully.
Yes. So again, this is a spectrum. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche would say, do many, many offerings, arrange them beautifully. In fact, have every single square of your house filled with tables of offerings. No room to move anywhere. So there's all the way from that into just what do we have? A little tiny cupboard where we make secret offerings because the rest of our household can't quite handle it. So you've got to find where you naturally fall on the spectrum there, and try and do what you can do without getting frustrated or regretting or giving up because you've put too much pressure on yourself. So for us beginners, just to get started, to know the very basics, and then it's like a concertina. It can become really vast and big, or it can shrink down to when you're just traveling and you're just in a hotel room, but you've got the essential ingredients. I've found since COVID too that the way that I do offerings has really changed, because beforehand I'd spend hours with the offerings, like maybe 5-6 hours setting up the offerings. Then the puja is only an hour and a half long, and then taking them down again. But then with COVID, everything changed and my energy really changed. I had no energy to make physical offerings, but what I noticed was my energy went into making screen share offerings. So I let it go in that way because I had to put energy into that. So of course my energy went into it. So without being too judgmental, you have to go with what's appropriate with the situation as well. So we do have physical offerings, but I keep them all in their boxes, in their packaging, in the shopping bags. I don't even put them in pretty bowls anymore because no one even sees the altar. What they see is the screen share. But we still have those offerings. So thank you for those questions. I've got a couple of slides now, what to offer and what not to offer. So what to offer. So this is just a little altar from the one in front of Lama Zopa Rinpoche from Lama Tsongkhapa Day. It was the day, you know, the 600th anniversary, big special day. And so I just tried to make things really nice and decorating things with the 5 coloured cartas to represent the 5 wisdoms. We've got the Dharma chakra, the wheel of Dharma in the middle because it's Lama Tsongkhapa Day. We have a text wrapped in the yellow carta. There's a mandala offering. We had a stupa and we had a medicine Buddha. So everything that we could think of that would fit on the throne there to offer to Rinpoche. So these, of course, and then a couple of tea light, electric lotus lights. So these offerings are similar to what are called the 5 daily offerings that we should do each day. So one is to offer light, and it symbolizes 2 things: having a long life and having wisdom. So there's huge benefits, as we know, with offering lights. Even if you don't have an altar, just when you turn the light switch on in the room, offer it as offering light. May I illuminate the minds of all sentient beings, just like turning on this light switch. And we offer flowers, which is a representation of offering our virtues. And they symbolize compassion, because also flowers are so fragile and, you know, kind of vulnerable. It helps us to appreciate impermanence and fragility. We offer food, and the purpose for offering food is so that we can generate realizations, spiritual nourishment. So by offering food, may we always have not just ordinary food, but the food of the Dharma, the nourishment of the Dharma. So we always try and offer really good stuff. Don't kind of offer the broken biscuits to Buddha and keep the good ones for your visitors, or offer ordinary biscuits to Buddha and keep the gluten-free ones for the people that, you know, have allergies. Whatever you think is good that you offer to the people, then you offer to Buddha as well. So then offering incense. So we offer the smell of incense, of course. So the incense usually goes in a little bowl on the floor, so that you're not offering ashes to the altar. That all gets caught in a bowl on the floor, and you're offering this beautiful smell. And the incense represents morality, our virtue. So that's the 4. And then the 5th one is offering water, which we'll get to in a moment with the water bowls. Rinpoche likes to wrap the precious things, the holy objects, in a kata. So the texts and the statues and the stupas in a kata, as a way of showing respect. And also when you're offering, often you bless by reciting Oma Hum as you're placing the offerings or making the offerings. Oma Hum, Oma Hum, Oma Hum, Oma Hum, Oma Hum. As a way of blessing the offering is one way of thinking about it, but mostly it's about recalibrating our mind. So we're not grasping at inherent existence. So when we're making these types of offerings, you can see it's like a personalized workout for our mind. What do we need to develop? What are we lacking the most? Then we make more of those offerings. So if we find ourselves being really dull and always sleepy, offer more light. If you find that you can't find nourishment in the Dharma, that it's not tasty, that it seems like a big chore, then offer delicious food. So it's like a life hack. By doing this, then it opens up the whole process within our mind. So it's just a beginning of what to offer. Now, what not to offer. So this is a little tongue in cheek, right? So this is me and Pearlie when we were in our 20s, doing everything wrong. So we staged this photo. We did stage it. We're not actually this bad, but it is pretty bad. It's pretty bad that we even did it. So what not to offer? Don't offer flowers picked from other people's gardens because they're not yours, just because you can take them. In fact, if you take flowers from the nature strip, you're taking flowers from everybody in that council area. So it's really bad. So I never knew that. On the way from my house to the Buddhist center, I'd just pick all the flowers along the way, and I'd show up going, oh, here, I bought you flowers. So I didn't quite know what we were doing. Don't offer leftovers or broken bits, of course, of, you know, leftover food. Always new, nice and beautiful. Don't offer cigarette smoke. So I used to be a chain smoker. I smoked everywhere and I had altars in the house. So of course I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I was offering cigarette smoke continuously. So apart from cigarettes being really detrimental to our health, they have a very heavy karmic legacy, because there's so much slavery and appropriation with tobacco, that when we smoke cigarettes, we are connecting to all of that. So it's a really heavy thing. As well, of course, cigarette smoke blocks all of our subtle channels, so it makes it very difficult to have deep kind of meditation. Okay, another thing not to do, don't go and get all the wonderful chocolates and then come home and it's about an hour before puja starts and you really, really, really want one of those chocolates, so you just have one of them first before puja. No, 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 you can't. Whatever you've decided, these are the offerings, you can't then change your mind and go, I'm not going to give it to Tara or Buddha, after all, I'm going to have it first. It's not going to turn out well. So afterwards, fine, no problem. And oh yes, special stuff for the visitors and non-ordinary things for the Buddha. So part of this is that if you drink bottled water, for instance, then you probably should offer bottled water to the Buddha, not tap water. And don't offer alcohol or knives. So here we've got our champagne, terrible no-no. We've got our shoes strewn around everywhere. We've got the offerings on the floor. Again, total no-no. And don't offer arguments. That's the other thing too. So while I've shared this with you is to actually point out that there's a couple of things. One, making offerings and just being clueless about it and not knowing how to do them and stuffing them up. It may continue one's confusion, but on balance, it's so much better to just offer, to just do the best that you can. So even like that photo with just everything really disjointed and probably quite disrespectful, considering the chaos of our lives, the fact that we were able to do a puja, that we were able to have an altar, that we were able to even think of those things, even in that haphazard, terribly disrespectful way, that's better than not doing it. And it's a work in progress. So, we can always fix up whatever mistakes that we've made. Certainly don't regret having made offerings in the wrong way. Just go, well, I didn't know. What is far worse than doing that is knowing how to make offerings, but not doing them. That's actually the worst. Having all of the understanding and then just not doing it. So that's like misusing medicine or misusing antibiotics, not taking them properly. What happens is we become resistant to making offerings. We start feeling a bit self-conscious or a bit silly. We get resentful. We don't want to do it. We get lazy, and we start procrastinating. And so all of that becomes an obstacle for us. And that kind of resistance to making offerings, knowing but not doing, that actually, it creates obstacles for our own spiritual development. It makes it much, much slower. And it comes because we underestimate the power of offerings, because we're just looking at them thinking it's just a play acting thing. What's that going to do anyway? But actually, what we're trying to do is loosen our tight grasping at ordinary reality. So the more beautiful the offering, the more outlandish the offering, the better, because it loosens that inherent view of reality. So I think the more that we study about dependent arising and emptiness, then that is reflected then in our offerings. So that's the way out. If you have a resistance, that's your way out of the corner. So here's a photo of our Nyungne altar. And So we draped everything in fairy lights. It looked so much nicer than this because the fairy lights, you know, much more glowing. And I've got astigmatism. So when I see one fairy light, I actually see 3. So it's brilliant. It looks even more. So if it's just set up, we didn't have a huge amount of room on our in front of the altar there. So normally a Nyungne altar comes out towards you. This one's, you know, across horizontally there. That's okay. You just do what you can to make it fit. And when you look at it, why it takes so long to figure out, to even notice everything that's on there, is because actually we're looking with our mind, not with our eyes. So it's transporting us to like a parallel universe, or it's like magical realism, you know, it opens up a door in our mind where the action happens. So we have our mandala house here with a little Chenrezig Tsatsar inside. So I did a trick for everybody, and I've got it's on a little stand where the lights really slowly change color. And so some of the people thought they were seeing a vision of Chenrezig emanating lights. It was brilliant. We've got all the rows of offering bowls, and these ones I've tried to do double-decker ones, you know. So what do we have? 2 waters, the flowers, incense, the little the tower of incense, light, perfume in a beautiful perfume bottle, and a little placeholder for the food. For our tormas, we've got honey with the little those little decorations that you put on presents on the top to make it nice. So you kind of get the idea. you just do as nice as you can. So when the Nyungne offering has its components, it has 5 sets of offering bowls for the Dhyani Buddhas. It's got various tormas. It's got the vase with the nectar. When we do pujas, often we offer a torma at the end. And so this is something else that I wanted to show you. So here we have the torma offerings. At the top here are our practice runs. Like, we really tried to make the torma offerings according to the traditional way, and we tried various ingredients. So keep in mind, it's humid Queensland weather, you know, 30 degrees, really humid. And so we've made these tormas out of oats and butter and honey. And these decorations on the top here were made out of marzipan, but they did slightly begin to melt. Then we made this other set down here. This was for the Tara Puja. And these decorations we made out of white cake icing. And then we had to keep them in the fridge overnight so they wouldn't melt. And they've already started shrinking down through the humidity. Over on the right here, we have this outrageous cake. This was for our 30th anniversary. And so it's a cake made of 8 cakes, and it's in the shape of the Swayambanath stupa. And for the rings here, we've got poppies, sparklers, auspicious symbols around everywhere. That was our birthday cake for the center, all wrapped up in a carter. So various types of offerings. Oh, of course, we've got chocolates along the top here too. So the torma offerings in particular, they're often made at the end of the day if you're doing a retreat, or they're made at the end of the puja. And torma offerings, these tormas up here, they are made to the deity, to the actual wisdom beings. And there's a very special purpose for torma offerings, which is to quickly generate realizations. So we actually went over to Perth, from Brisbane to Perth, to learn how to make torma offerings with Geshe Zopa. So that's a 4,500 kilometre journey from Brisbane to Perth, which is about 45 hours driving, or about 6 or 7 hours in the plane. We went for the weekend. It was epic. And so we learnt how Geshe Zopa, so kind and encouraging, showed us all how to make all the different types of tormas, the peaceful ones, the wrathful ones, the highest yoga tantra ones, the ones that dispel interferences, all the different types. And everything that we did, he just said, that's good, that's brilliant. Even though like some of them were all wonky and whatever, his attitude really it went deep into my mind, and I never quite experienced this, hands-on encouragement like that with practice. And it just changed everything, changed my whole attitude towards any kind of offering, to just love doing it and get in there and do it. And of course, we've got to keep the lineage clear and know what we're doing. But then when we go and do it, we've got to encourage ourselves. And how do we learn? It's by practicing. So this was the tormas at the end of the weekend. Everybody, we had the same instructions, but everybody's totally different. Some little wee ones there, some really big chunky ones. And I've got to say, if you like the minions, I have a huge screen crush on the minions. I think tormas are like divine minions. That's exactly what they look like to me. I love them all. So Geshe Zopa, he explained all the different meanings, all the different decorations, which part had the meaning, which part had the beauty. So you know the background, and then you can riff on a theme. You can improvise. So the tormas in particular, the other thing that became very apparent to me that I had no idea was going to happen was that these are elemental forms, and the shapes of them, there's all different types of tormas. So some are just food tormas, but some are in a particular shape that are actually to embody the deity, and you invite the deity to enter into the torma during the initiation or the practice. So it's almost like capturing those elemental forces into this shape, into this space-time continuum here and now. It's a very profound activity to do. So those ones are the tormas that you'll see. They're bull tor, and they've often got a photo of the little tiny picture of the deity at the top with an umbrella and a little carter. And so the actual deity is there in the torma. Other tormas are precious food offerings transformed and offered for the purpose of generating realizations. Other tormas are ones that are given to dispel interferences, the gektor, and that usually happens at the beginning. So those interferences, it's to dispel our doubts and our neuroses, to give them what they want so they leave us alone, to give them something that satisfies so that we can put them aside, put aside all of those inner saboteurs. So before we go on to water bowls, any questions or comments so far about this kind of range of offerings, the daily offerings or the tormas? Everyone's okay. Do you guys make tormas where you are? I so hope that you get to do it. Even we were very fortunate because we had about 1 year to be able to practice doing this, and then COVID hit, and of course any kind of hands-on activity like that completely finished. So our pujas really, we were practicing all the tunes, we're doing all the mountains of offerings, we're making the tormas like for days beforehand. It was so exciting, and it was like a party where everybody got to be involved. The kids could come and they could just make little ones on the side. The grown-ups came and made them in preparation for these special events. So it was a real bonding kind of thing. It's very skillful.
I just
Then COVID hit and everything changed. Oh, right. Jennifer, yes.
Hi, thank you. This is wonderful. Are the tormas ever made out of fabric, or are they made out of particular materials? It looked like clay to me, but
yes. No, normally they're made out of oats with the the sweets and the whites, the 3 whites and the 3 sweets. So you eat them. All they're made out of tsampa. Which is like a real treat. And then afterwards, there's this way that you can prepare the tormas and make them almost into like tsampa chips, and that's just like super treat. Okay. So you make them so that they're nice to eat.
Okay, thank you.
Then you can get placeholders for your altar, so you can buy wooden ones or porcelain ones that are in the proper shape for whatever practice that you're doing, and you can have them permanently on your altar. You can have them on your altar if you can keep them, the food ones, if you can keep them nice away from, insects don't eat them or they don't melt. So I think maybe in Tibet it was much easier. The question about how to offer our food, you'll have to wait till class 8, because that's when we have a look at that.
I've got a question. You mentioned that you have Geshe Senshin Soba coming to teach you how to do the tormas. That's not really what we could do right now, but could we do it just as a social event at Laksam and invite people to do it, and then just
yes, so if you have someone that can show you how to make them, then yes.
Yeah, that would be the thing.
That's the thing. But otherwise, just preparing offerings together, even preparing little plates, with one each of the things, and putting a nice bow to offer to the Sangha, for instance, or the VIPs or something, coming together and preparing things like that. It's a really lovely experience. One of the Sangha days that we had, the IMI Sangha day on first wheel turning day, we made these like little show bags for the Sangha. So we had white bags and they had these gold bows on them, and people got really good quality brown socks. They got really good quality soaps that didn't have perfume, chocolates, other kind of consumables. And we put them all in these bags. And then at several pujas beforehand, and when we're sitting around preparing them, we got everybody to write a note to, dear Sangha member, this is how important the Sangha are to me. So that each Sangha member got all of these letters saying how important they are. And then we put them all in the bags, and then we distributed them on International Sangha Day. So yes, anything like that, to have this a social bonding with this deep meaning to it, really worthwhile. Okay, so then we've had our Torma party. I really hope that that we all get to learn how to do this again, and that you can ask, a resident Geshe or someone that can show you how to do it, and that, because in the doing of it, it's like you are gathering up your own spiritual energy. All right, so then let's have a little talk about Tantric offerings, the Tantric offering bowls, and the water bowl offerings. So the Tantric offering bowls is a practice. These two practices are separate practices. They're quite different, but they can often be mixed up. So it's just like you can have ice cream and you can have soup, and they're both great. They're actually both great at dinner, but you don't put ice cream and soup in the same bowl. So it's good that we know what these offerings are about. So the Tantric offerings are the bowls that the two waters, Agam and Pajam, the water for drinking, the water for washing, flowers, incense, light, perfume, food. There's a Dharma there, and music. And they are the physical basis of these offerings, but they're tantric offerings, and so they have a whole lot more meaning and ritual involved in them. So I'm just going to flip over to as opposed to water bowl offerings, which are these bowls here in a row, just water in bowls. Water bowl offerings, that's what it is. And what you're offering is water. You're not offering flowers and fruit and blah, 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 blah. You're just offering water. Here's some really nice ones in, it's repurposed champagne glasses. What a way to go. Beautiful crystal. So I'm going to go a little bit more into the water bowl offerings in a moment, but just to set the scene with these two types, the tantric offerings and the water bowls. So the tantric offerings, the ones that we most often see them is at puja. They're set up, and each puja has its own way of setting the offerings up. And sometimes the direction changes, sometimes what's in the bowls change. And generally you would set your tantric offerings up before you do your tantric practice. So you set them up specifically associated with whatever practice that you're doing. So if you're doing Tara Puja, you'd set up the Tara tantric offering bowls. If you do a tantric practice every day, then you'd refresh your tantric bowls every day. So when, for instance, you're offering the flowers, you're not just offering flowers. You're offering the symbolic meaning of the flowers, of virtue and purity and compassion. But tantric offerings are very special because they are actually offered by the deity, by the tantric Buddha, to be actually they're blessed by the tantric Buddha or the deity. So to be blessed, transformed, made in completely pure, they have to be transformed by the deity. So if you're going to make them, then you have to have permission to arise as the deity, which means that you need to have the initiation. So at home, the only way that you'd really be making tantric offerings is if you've had whatever tantric initiation, and then you do the offerings according to them. If you're at a puja, as long as somebody there has the tantric initiation and can arise as the deity and bless the offerings, then everybody can offer. So that's why everybody can come to puja, as long as there's one person there that has the initiation that can bless the offerings. So the tantric offerings are very special because they're blessed by the deity, by the Buddha. And the basis of the offering is there physically, but you think of them as in the nature of emptiness. They're made of light, so they're not going to degenerate. The flowers aren't going to rot. They're made of light, which reminds you of emptiness. And their sole purpose is to generate great bliss. So the purpose of food, ordinary food for us, is to fill us up and ambulate our body. But the purpose of tantric food is to generate great bliss. The purpose of offering flowers is to generate great bliss. So these tantric offerings are the substantial cause for the resources or enjoyments of a Buddha. And that's why it's so important to be able to make them. And they're blessed in the puja, when we bless the offerings, blessed by samadhi, mantra, and mudra. So they get transformed from ordinary to sublime. So it's a whole practice, and you learn the practice according to then whichever sadhana that you're doing. We're going to go more into what the meaning of these are in the class on mudras. The water bowl offerings, though, that's an offering that all of us can do. You don't need any initiation. And in fact, you don't even need to be a Buddhist. You could make water bowl offerings to Jesus Christ, to the Virgin Mary, to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Everybody can make these water bowl offerings. And what you're thinking about is the clarity of the water. And that by offering clarity, may we clarify our minds. May we still and calm our heart. So we don't need to transform them into anything. This is a sutra practice. And so that's why everybody can do it. So the water bowl offering practice, normally you have about 7 to do with either the 7-limb prayer or the 7 qualities of Vajradhara. The water bowl offering practice was given by Atisha to the Tibetans because, you know, they had the crystal sparkling clear water in the hills, not like the water in India where Atisha came from. And so it's this fantastic practice that you can do without needing any money. And especially if you've got water on tap, that's, you know, nice water on tap, you can do this practice without having to spend any money. It's very simple to do, and you can't kind of get too proud about it because it's just water. So it's a very skillful way to create mountains and mountains of merit. Little chance of generating pride. And of course, with the clarity of the water, especially here in Queensland when it's stinking hot and you offer this beautiful, clear, fresh water, it's really heartfelt. Now, I'll show you a couple of the examples of water bowls. So the way for the water bowl, it should be wider at the top than at the bottom. So you can offer martini glasses, but not brandy flutes. But you can repurpose your beautiful crystal drinkware. These kind of bowls are really excellent in my mind. They're from IKEA and they're super cheap and they're really sturdy. So they don't break easily. If you drop them or if you're cleaning them, they're not going to shatter in your hand. And if you're going to do water bowl retreat, then it's really affordable to be able to get heaps and heaps of them. But what's better are these little Chinese teacups, and that's because they have a nice lip and it makes it much easier to pour without dripping. And then we just recently had a Nyungne, and so because you've got to set up 8 sets of offering bowls and lots of people only have the size of a little card table. So I sent everybody out these little shot glasses. So these are good for if you're traveling, you know, tiny little shot glasses. They're all beautiful, different colors, and you can set them out. Best though to have them, you know, not too small, but nice size if you can, and set them up. So what I'm going to do is swivel over to this other seat and show you how to fill them up. I just got to swivel around my camera. Okay, here we go. Nope, this way. Right, and then, right. Okay. So I haven't got a really nice offering cloth or anything like that, but I've got the bowls set up, and normally you'd start with the bowls ready to go, set up, and notice that they're upside down because you don't ever put empty bowls upwards on the altar because it's like offering a, you know, poverty. So if you've got an empty bowl, it's always put on the altar upside down. You get your dedicated nice cloth and the bowls, and first you start by cleaning them, and it's 3 times clockwise, 3 times anti-clockwise. And as you're doing this, you're thinking, may I wipe away all the suffering of sentient beings? And as you're going anti-clockwise, may I bring all the wisdom of the Buddhas, the blessings of the body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas. So as you're doing this, you can be reciting Om Ahum, but this preparation for the bowls, especially if there's people you know who are sick or depressed, and you think you're wiping away all those sufferings, you're wiping away all the COVID, all the acrimony, all the fractiousness of the entire world, of all the beings in all the realms. So you prepare the bowls. Okay, and then the first bowl, and you fill it up with the jug, and you try and have the jug that you only use for water bowls. You don't use it for anything else. You fill the first bowl up, and then transfer almost all the water to the next bowl till there's just a little bit left. Put that one down. Transfer it to the next bowl. There's just a little bit left. It's a little bit like when you get the candle and in the church, and you light the ones in the front row, and they light the ones in the next row, and they light the ones in the next row. So here, the water goes from bowl to bowl, so that by the time you get to the end, there's just a little bit left in each one. And so what you're thinking is, this is like your mind stream from life to life, this continuity. And when you're putting the bowls down, you put them about a rice grain apart. You think, may I always be this close to my guru. Don't put them really close, because that's a cause for dullness. So it's just, you put them really nicely. May I always be this close to my guru. And then you get the jug and you fill them up. So it would be from your left to your right. And as you're filling them up, Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum, and try not to make any noise. Because they say, so of course you're just trying to make it nice, but if you make lots of dribbly noise, it's a cause for agitation in the mind. Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum. Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum. And if you can, keep the water so that the skin of the water doesn't break. Oma hum, Oma hum. And you fill them up to half a centimeter from the top, so that they're full, but you can still pick them up afterwards to empty them. And then you can do your 3 prostrations and sit down. Lama Zopa Rinpoche sometimes likes to do, make it a little bit more elaborate. He might get a bowl and an incense stick and go around the inside with the incense to purify the bowl. But pretty much this is the very simple way to do it. Then 24 hours later, you can empty them again. And remember, put it upside down, because we're not putting an empty bowl. And you can just leave them on the edge to dry, so they can air dry. What do you do with the water? You can put it in the kettle and drink it. You can put it in the cat's bowl. You can put it on your plants outside. The main job is done, right? So it doesn't really matter what you do with the water afterwards. So that's the long way. There is a short way where you get your bowls like this. This is how the Tibetans do it. You might see it in the movies. Your 7 bowls, you pour all the water into the top one. Oma hum, Oma hum. Just going to get rid of these ones. Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum. Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum. This is very simple, isn't it? Oma hum, Oma hum. One into the other, into the other. Nicely put them down. May I always be this close to my guru in all of my lifetimes. Oma hum, Oma hum, Oma hum. Oh, run out of room. There we go. So that's the quick way. And then when you fill it up, and when you're filling it up, there's a verse to say. But I've also found that this practice, it's almost like a bit of biofeedback, that you can see how your mind is. because sometimes my water level's really up to the top and it means that I'm kind of distracted. And sometimes, I'll just come back to here. Sometimes my water level, I'll just have it all in the like 1 centimeter and I've forgotten to fill them up. It means all my energy is really low and I'm tired. Sometimes the bowls are higgledy-piggledy like this. Other times it's really, really nice. So instead of getting too uptight about it, you just notice it's like, okay, this is how my energy is going. I better be careful and recalibrate. So I hope that was helpful with how to offer the water bowls as a way to get started. So really basic. This is a practice that can grow and become more and more involved and more amazing. But often what I've found is that it means that you get too intimidated and just don't do it. So hopefully these little ones, by the way, these are just jelly molds and they're plastic and they're great. They're fantastic for doing many offering bowls. Questions, comments?
Yeah. Once you've offered the water and filled up the bowls, I've heard Lama Zopa saying that you need to say some blessings of the water, otherwise the water will be inhabited by, I think maybe it was Nagas or something like that. I'm doing the cloud offering mantra and other verses.
There's many things like that. So in the Rinpoche's extensive offering practices, there's mantras there to say, there's mantras to bless the water, the cloud offering practices, all of that. Yes, but also if you've been taught by a Geshe, who the whole Geshe approach is much more basic and pragmatic sometimes, somewhere in between those two bookends, you've got to find your level where you're happy to do the practice. So what I have found, which is really sad, sometimes on retreat, you know, that there's so much expectation that people put on themselves to do water bowls perfectly that it takes them all day and they get really cross if somebody, you know, stuffs up or someone redoes the bowls and it's like, I've already done those bowls, what are you doing, whatever, you know, just chill. And if you don't have much time in the morning, then you can do a very simple practice really nicely, and at least get it done. And then if you've got time to do more, to add on these things like Rinpoche says, because that fast tracks it even more, then by all means do so. But please don't feel intimidated. Oh, you've got to do this and this and this and this and this. It can just get it started. Are you allowed to pour the water into the kitchen sink? If you pour the water down the drain, then you've got to do it with a mindfulness, thinking that the water is going out to the rivers and to the ocean to bless all the beings in the ocean. Otherwise, it's like you're pouring your merit down the drain. So it's how you do it in your mind. What else? Oh yes, so if you don't have very much room on your altar, you can have 3 bowls. You can have one big, beautiful crystal bowl. It doesn't have to be the 7. The verse, the water offering verse is really lovely. This is from Pabonka Rinpoche. Cool, delicious, light and soft, clear, odorless, easy on the throat and kind to the stomach is the water with the 8 properties. So the benefits of offering water, because the water that you offer is cool, it means that your ethics will become pure. Your ethics, your mind will be cooled down. You won't be a hothead. Because the water is delicious, you'll come to enjoy most delicious food and nourishment. Because it's light, The water's lightness means your mind and body will become pliant and supple, like feeling light instead of heavy and dragging yourself through quicksand. Because it's soft, the water's softness results in a gentle mind stream. The clarity, a clear mind will result from the water's clarity, and you will be able to understand any object or topic easily. Odorless will purify you of karmic obscurations. Kind to the stomach means that your body will be free of illness, and easy on the throat. You will come to have pleasant speech. So they're really lovely qualities to think of when you're filling the bowls up with the water. In particular, the water bowl offering practice is really good if you have a tendency towards anger, short-temperedness, frustration, agitation, impatience, all of that whole syndrome of things. Water bowl practice is the one to do. Because just like Venerable Dondrup so wonderfully showed everybody in that Discovering Buddhism video, where he started shaking the bowl and saying, you know, like, this is what we normally do, agitating our mind. But actually, if we just stop agitating our mind and let our mind revert back to its natural clarity, its natural stillness. There's nice, profound teaching in there. Tara, you've got a question?
Yeah, thank you. Again, good to see you this week. I wanted to say I have, for my bowls, they're kind of like that little bit of a teacup looking one you showed that has, you know, like blue.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not as deep, but my thing is because I've been using them for a while, there's paint on the inside too, and now the paint is discoloring. So do I throw them away? I can't really paint them.
They're if you can paint them or get them coated. So the thing is that on the inside it looks really beautiful. So,
yeah.
So of course the Tibetans, they have metal bowls, brass ones or copper ones. They polish them. They spend hours polishing them so that on the inside it looks beautiful and you see those pools of water.
Okay, I need to change.
It takes a huge amount of effort. If you don't have time, if you get them properly polished and then have the coating, the clear coating put on top, that can help. But that's why glass bowls are so much better, crystal ones, because they're much easier to keep clean. And really, ye olde worldy Tibetan bowls that look all disgusting on the inside, that's not what we're offering. So
I know, I just
maybe repaint them.
Yeah, I'm change. And then, but on the glass also, because even my pitcher of water, for example, if I use glass, obviously I'm going to have to clean the glass because eventually the water changes
that's right.
the color.
But it's much easier. It's much easier to clean the glass than
I know I got to switch to glass
with you know, with vinegar. Then I've polished the water, the brass bowls, and then you use Brasso, and Brasso leaves all of that residue and it stinks, and it's just like, forget it, man. We can have beautiful crystal bowls. That's what we're going to do. And we can have beautiful plastic bowls. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yuval?
Thank you very much. I have a small question. Right now I use a kata as to cover the surface where I have my altar and my water bowls. But could you explain a little more about these, the traditional multicolored brocade cloth that is used for altars and offering, and if it's actually better?
Yeah. So whatever's better is whatever you think is beautiful and that you can offer. But the 5-colored, multicolored cloth, that's to do with the 5 wisdoms. So it's like the ground of the 5 wisdoms. And that's why they offer them. But I have actually found that when you're putting water bowls, because of the way that they're sewn, it's quite tippy. So maybe have a glass, a pane of glass on top to make it, keep it clean so you don't splush the water over everything. And yeah, it keeps the bowls even. it's fine to have everything arranged on a kata, because a kata is like an offering with the 8 auspicious symbols. And in fact, when I've seen when the lamas have been setting up for big pujas and the attendants, they'll often put a kata around their mouth. They'll tie it behind their, so that you're not breathing all over the offerings. And so that is a way of showing respect to the offerings. Then in Singapore, then they were using, you know, just face masks, like N95 face masks. And Rinpoche said, no, it's not like, oh, I'm going to be contaminated by the offerings and I've got to keep myself safe. No, we're trying to not contaminate them. So we should wear the kata, not the surgical masks. And I thought that was pretty funny. The other thing too that I've noticed, say for instance, with the water bowls, with the tantric offerings, you'll often put saffron into the water. And also with the water bowl offerings, you can put saffron into the water, because it makes this really subtle, beautiful smell. And as we know, the smell just transforms the whole environment. So a little bit of making up saffron water beforehand, and then you dilute it in. One of the lamas said it should end up the color of good champagne. But sometimes this can get lost in translation. So there was one Dharma center that I went to, and they put yellow food coloring into the water, and it turned out this toxic yellow. I'm like, what are you doing? They said, oh, because our lama said the yellow makes it beautiful. I'm like, oh, something's been lost here. So what's lost is, it's not the yellow color, it's the smell of the saffron that we're offering. That's, yeah. So you just do however nicely that you can. All right, so the last thing about the water bowl offerings, of course, when we are offering water, we can also contemplate, apart from the 8 qualities of water, the way that Rinpoche offers water bowls. Even though it's a sutra practice, he comes at it from the point of view of Tantra. So even just blessing with Om Ah Hum is a tantric perspective. And even just thinking of the 7 qualities of Vajradhara is a tantric perspective. So everything that Rinpoche teaches is always from the point of view of Tantra. It's just within his being. So it's really good for us to recognize the genealogy, how we have tantric offerings and sutra offerings, daily offerings, like, food and flowers and medicine, and then the tantric offerings, and be able to distinguish between them. But in practice, especially in practice with a great being, a great yogi like Rinpoche, there's no distinction, artificial distinctions like this or that. It's not rules-based. It's just this completely integrated experience. And that's really what's so mind-blowing about Rinpoche. So then how we see the water, we just see bowls with water and we think that's it. But actually, from an enlightened perspective, from the side, say, of a deva would see nectar. And from the side of, say, a hungry ghost, a wandering spirit, they don't see water, they see pus. So it's not even just ordered, what we're doing, this practice, it's to do with our mind's eye, how we're relating to the practice. Even with the approach of why make water bowl offerings. So lower scope practices is all about removing our weaknesses, purifying the mind, putting in antidotes, refraining from the afflictions. That's where we start, that kind of discipline. But higher scope practices is about developing our qualities and using everything that we have on the path. So using your strengths and using your passion. So we've just got time then. This has taken us to my story about the kindness of the Guru in being able to use our strengths and our passion, helping us to play to our strengths. And so quite a few years ago now, when I'd first come to Langri Dharma Center, so it's like 20 years ago or so, And Lama Zopa Rinpoche was going to come and visit. It's a big deal, isn't it, when Rinpoche is going to come? So much preparations. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And everybody comes out of the woodwork, students from ages ago, and, you know, unhinged people and graspy people and generous people, the whole shebang, isn't it? So about a day or two before Rinpoche was due to come, I got this phone call. And so there's this guy on the phone. He said, like, oh, g'day, how's it all going with the preparations? And I thought, oh, I've got a loony on the line. I'm not sure, but I thought, okay, you know, all sorts come out. They're just attracted to Rinpoche. I've got to practice equanimity here. And just, oh, yes, the preparations are going okay. Everything's going as well as, you know, expected. Anyway, it turns out it's Venerable Roger on the phone, but he didn't say it was him. He just launched into the conversation. How's all the preparation going? So he's in a taxi with Rinpoche. They're going from the airport to somewhere or other. And he's relaying what Rinpoche is saying. And Rinpoche is like, what color is Miffy's hair now? So I can't remember at the time, it was green and black or something like that. And so then Rinpoche said, okay, I've got some instructions for Miffy. So he's relaying it. So the instructions were that I had to pile my hair up high, very, very high. And I had to put rainbows of the 5 wisdoms in it and have auspicious symbols everywhere, and then tie it all up with a kata. And that's my instructions. And I was so happy because, you know, people get all these really full-on heavy-duty instructions. And Rinpoche is coming and he's just said, Miffy, you have to dress up. I'm like, yes. Anyway, so I'm going to show you a picture of what it ended up as. So here's me, much younger. So I've got black hair, but there's green on the back. And up here at the top is like I made a Spanish mantilla and I put the kata, draped it like a Spanish mantilla, and it flowed down the back of my head there. So it was a bit like a fan shape. Then I got these 2 pipe cleaners, black and white pipe cleaners, and stuck them in my head and hung auspicious symbols off them with fiber optic rainbow backing to it, so that all these rainbows spread out everywhere from the auspicious symbols, and they dangled off there. And then I got these 5 colored ribbons for the 5 wisdoms and stuck them to my big long fake pigtails. And I think I also got some tinsel, rainbow tinsel, and then tied it all up in a bow. Anyway, so I got my hairdo on. And so then we went to the airport to meet Rinpoche. And so then here I am at the airport. So I bent my head down, and so all of the auspicious symbols are going like this. And then, of course, everyone's just like, fantastic. So is Rinpoche. How wonderful to make your guru so happy, and how wonderful that the guru just made me so happy. So, you know, everything that we do can be our path to enlightenment. It's not that we have to squish our personality. Whatever it is that you naturally love doing, you love it because in the past you did it with a virtuous mind. And so now you still love doing it, whether it's music or dressing up or whatever. So now it's like you've got to pick up where you left off and keep doing it and bring it to the next level, onto the path to enlightenment, you know, as a proper offering. So eventually Rinpoche got the kata over all of the stuff over my head and around my neck. And then, you know, off we went through the airport. So I hope that inspires you to really to play to your strengths. Start there. Start with your strengths, with what you love doing, and see, how can I make this Dharma? How can I do this for all sentient beings with wisdom, realizing emptiness? And that's what making offerings is about. It's playing to your strengths, and it's generating energy and enthusiasm and enjoyment, because that's the result of them, is the enjoyments of a Buddha. So once you get that going, and you've got, as Venerable Robina often says, you've got some fuel in the tank, then you can start looking at the problems. then you can start dealing with the problems. But if we don't have any fuel in the tank and we just go straight to the problems, our whole practice is just going to become dreary, and it's really hard to come back from that. So you know, I know with me, how I came back from it was having the inspiration of the gurus. That kind of lifted me up out of it, and then it lasts for years. So any last questions or comments before we finish and do a little dedication? Have I talked your ear off? Yes. Oh, yes, Rosalind. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you ever so much. I've had a question for a while. Venerable Venus said that even if a bone is very old, if you kind of blow on the bone or you bless it, then the animal whose bone it was gets. So say I'm vegetarian, but I buy cat food for my cat. So if you offer cat food, do the fish get any benefit from? Do you know what I mean? From that,
Yes.
from being offered in that way?
So we'll look at that also when we offer our food on the 8th class, but generally you blow on it, you blow with the mantra. So you recite the mantras, so your speech becomes energized with the mantra, and then you blow with that mantra breath, especially like Medicine Buddha mantra, something like that. You blow onto the meat or the bone, and then it benefits the fish in the can, and it benefits the pet eating the food, the pet food. So it's what to do to salvage a bad situation, and it's very effective to be able to do that. When it comes to making offerings on an altar, for the peaceful practices, you just offer peaceful things. So
Right.
sweet things, light things, really nourishing. For the highest yoga tantra practices, then you can offer anything. So we've occasionally offered, you know, tins of artichoke hearts or beetroot, or, you know, something like that. So that's generally more for the highest yoga tantra or the protector practices. And for the lower tantras, you offer really sweet, light, beautiful things.
So say, for example, with the carrier bags of supermarket shopping, you know, so if there was cat food in there or chew or something in there, is that a benefit to the being or not, just being offered in that way?
Absolutely a benefit to the being. Yes, that's right. So instead of it just being, you know, slaughtered and consumed in that whole samsaric cycle, somewhere there's been this little detour and they've connected with us, and we can connect them with the Buddhas. So that's why it's so important to do. And so we become like a conduit between the Buddhas by virtue of reciting the mantra. That's actually the subtle body of, you know, Medicine Buddha. So we become the medium through which that goes through to help that being.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's dedicate the merits. Let's by making offerings, however we make them, may we make them nicely, and may we have an abundance of resources so that we can continue on our Dharma journey, so that we always have enough to be able to practice, to be able to benefit others, to have be sustained all the way from here to enlightenment. May we accumulate the cause for all the limitless resources of a Buddha, so that we've got everything at our fingertips to be able to help sentient beings. May we offer everything that we love and transform our passions into the path to enlightenment, so that it delights the Buddhas and it connects and subdues us and sentient beings. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope to see you next week. Next week, we're going to embark on short mandalas. So what's a mandala and how to do the short mandala offering. So thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, thank you, Miffy. I
you.
just wanted to say,
Thank you.
Miffy, thank you so much for reminding me that although I would stick to tradition and remember the lineage, always make it a joyous practice so it doesn't end up being a drag or me just overthinking and making so much of a cognitive process. I need to engage with my heart. So thank you
Oh,
for
good.
reminding me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lars.
And
That's
thank
great.
you to everybody
Okay.
showing up
Bye,
today.
everyone.
Bye. Have a good